your role on the Labor and Ed Committee is going to be very crucial as we look at Leave No Child Left Behind. And I wondered if you could share with us what kinds of changes that you might expect or that you will be pushing forward, because there's been so much back and forth about the legislation, and if you could share some of that with us.
When I ran for Congress in 2006, one of the huge issues that always came up, and it's not just for me, but a lot of my colleagues who were elected in 2006 in the House, No Child Left Behind was a big issue, because every educator I ever ran into, and certainly the teachers, all said, this law needs to be changed, that it's very negative, it's too narrow, it just focuses so much on testing. I am not a big proponent of testing to make changes in education, except as a test can be used as a diagnostic tool to focus on the kinds of support that you need to make. So I support major changes to No Child Left Behind, to make it much more flexible, much more supportive. And in fact, just this morning before I came to see you, I was listening to a well-known Dr. Heckman, I think his name is, and he had written about early education. And he said all this focus on testing does not pay enough attention to non-cognitive skills that he said you'd be interested to know this too. When we talk about what our workforce needs, that it's not enough to be a good test taker or to do well in those tests. What we need are the non-cognitive, the social skills that we have, the other kinds of ability to be emotionally strong and cohesive. He said these kinds of soft skills are much better indicators of how you're going to do in a workplace than these test scores. So I thought that was really interesting, because I've always believed that to be the case.
I could certainly relate to that. I was not a good test taker. In fact, if that was the case, I probably wouldn't have been admitted to my graduate program. But I know it's important for young people to understand, especially how important education is, yes, and especially for minority women. And we have such a large audience of young people that we serve in our programs. We have what we call the Youth Build program and the Job Corps program. And many of these youngsters are coming from disadvantaged, low-income backgrounds and may not even have had anyone in their entire family attend college. So I know that you're going to be working on important legislation and hopefully giving avenues of opportunity. And maybe you could share some of the things that you're working on, or the committee is going to be working on, that will help encourage young people to stay in education, get the job training, or just continue to pursue a new career.
The Education and Labor Committee under Chairman George Miller has been really, I think, at the forefront, and we recognize that the child learns through a whole range of really critical parts in their lives, and it starts from prenatal. So we have this idea in our Education and Labor Committee, I know the chairman does, that it's really about the development of the child, and there are critical points, clearly prenatal support, quality early education, and then there's a lot of discussion going on now about dropouts, kids who drop out of high school, and in fact, sad to say that it is the minority populations, including APIAs, who are dropping out in larger percentages than the Caucasian community. And so we have to focus on things like at 9th grade, that's considered critical time when support intervention needs to occur. So this idea of education as a continuum, and that there are critical points at which we can intervene to enable a child to succeed, I think these are important elements that we need to recognize and to then find the appropriate kinds of support. And I think we were talking about soft skills. I think enabling young people to experience what it means to make a difference by giving back is really an important part of their whole socialization and becoming citizens. And we just passed, and the President signed into law, the GIVE Act, which focuses on young people middle school and high school kids, we give them, this act enables them to get stipends of up to, or scholarships up to $1,000 to go on to college, to have them do service in their communities. I'm a big proponent of a service learning, which incorporates young people being able to do something that responds to a need in the community, and then to weave that in with what they're learning in school. There are many ways that we can foster the kind of citizenry that cares about other people, that will, I hope at some point, enable people to decide, well, there are things I can do. I can run for office. I can, do work for the government. I can work for a nonprofit. There are just so many avenues now. But I think that you do have to lay the foundation.
Mazie, something that I think we often may overlook or not really understand completely is this, I don't want to say stereotype, but just notion that all Asians are good students, they're intelligent, and that's not to say they're not, but there's a whole other group of Asians that have different backgrounds and experiences. Maybe you could just touch on the diversity within the Asian Pacific community.
The Asians, the model minority. But if you look at the data, you can see that, for example, in Native Hawaiians, part of the APIA community, they are, this is a group that is still seeking recognition, political recognition, the way we recognize American Indians and Alaska Natives. The Native Hawaiians is an indigenous group, and that they should be recognized politically by the U.S. government. We had a monarchy in Hawaii before the U.S. government was participated in the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy, and the Hawaiians that have been really challenged in terms of educational attainments, ownership of houses, their health issues. So there are minorities like that all over the country. The Hmongs, for example, that is another group. The Southeast Asians. There are all these groups within the United States who have particular challenges. And that reminds me of a recent poll that was done of immigrant women, and the fact that they really are challenged in terms of the kind of jobs they have, usually low-paying jobs, even if in their countries of birth they were skilled workers. They come to this country hoping for a new life and for themselves and their children. They usually end up in low-paying jobs with no health care, huge challenges with language and other barriers. And so this is a study that pointed out in particular what immigrant women are up against in this country. Although I came to this country, 40 years ago, those are the same issues that my mother faced. Here we are, the immigrant women now in our country face these particular challenges. I think that when we have information like this, data like this, that should inform our decisions that we make and how best we can help the minorities all across our country.